Okay, so greetings everyone. My name is Daniel and I'm presenting for Team Fearless. Before we start, we want to acknowledge Professor Jacob Abbey. We want to acknowledge the board of Jagos, our mentors, especially Barry Kisu, the panel of judges and the faculty here. Our research topic is examining the challenges faced by leaders in managing organizational change, identify strategies and best practices for effectively leading change initiatives and ensuring successful implementation. The team members are Bua from Pom Bernard, who is our team leader, Avaga Felicia, who is our secretary, Ofasi Pamela Daniel, who is the proofreader or presenter, that's myself, Entry Ose Chelsea, who is our researcher. For this presentation, we are going to have an introduction into organizational change management. We are going to look at our methodology. We will have an overview of organizational change management. We look at strategies for effective change management. Then we will discuss our studies, findings, conclusions, and recommendations. So, an introduction to organizational change. Organizational change is a complex and demanding process. Many organizations struggle to fulfill their goals while implementing change initiatives. The goal of this study is to look at the obstacles that leaders encounter while managing organizational change, as well as to discover strategies and best practices for effectively leading change initiatives and guaranteeing their success implementation. So our research is going to answer 3 questions. 1, what are the most common challenges faced by leaders in managing organizational change? 2, what are the best practices for effectively leading change initiatives? And 3, how can leaders ensure successful implementation of change initiatives? For our methodology, we opted for a qualitative approach, which allowed us to delve deep into the complexities of organizational change. Then we purposefully selected individuals who play pivotal roles in driving and overseeing change initiatives within their organization. Then we must note that our sample size was limited to 10 participants, so this might impact the generalization of our findings. And to analyze our data, we employed a thematic analysis method, which involves identifying recurring patterns and themes within the interview response. So let's watch a short video on organizational change. It gives an overview of
constantly varying market conditions, customer demands, technologies, input costs, and competition. They must adapt to these shifting forces to avoid being eaten up. Change management is managing the impact that these crucial adaptations can have on an organization's people. 4 typical responses to change are the critic who opposes the change, the victim who panics, the bystander who ignores the change, and the navigator who's empowered to work with changing circumstances. The challenge for managers is to help people become navigators. Here's some things that we know that help this happen. Number 1, communicate the threat of not changing. Number 2, where possible, involve your team in decision making. Number 3, minimize uncertainty. Number 4, celebrate successes in moving towards the goal. Number 5, keep explaining why we're changing. Remember that when there's an information vacuum, people often assume that managers are plotting terrible things. So number 6, be as transparent as possible. To summarize, organizations must continually adapt in order to survive. To create change navigators, communicate the threat, involve your team, minimize uncertainty, celebrate positive shifts, and be as transparent as possible.
Okay, so this video gives us a basic overview of organizational change. For definition, organizational change is a move of an organization from their present state to some desired future state to increase their effectiveness. So the organization recognizes the need for the change. They develop a plan to achieve the change. They implement the change. They stick to the plan. They make the plan stick, and they do so with love. Then they analyze, they review, correct, and make changes to the plan in order to make a successful change process. So it is a deliberate, systematic, and impactful process. Next slide. Leaders play a very important role in organizational change. According to Bass and Rigio 2006, leaders are the driving force behind organizational change, directing companies or organizations through phases of transition, adjustment, and success. So the leader sets the vision, implements the vision, maintains standards, maintains relationship. The leader is self-determined, and the leader synchronizes the company's assets and actions. Some common challenges faced by leaders during change management include resistance to the change. inconsistency between management goals and staff expectations, dissatisfaction and disassociation, miscommunication, inadequate resources, competing agendas, and lack of managerial consistency. Next slide. And we have some strategies for effective change management. And we are going to go into all of these one after the other. So we have the leadership style, communication, effective engagement, managing resistance to change, organizational culture and change readiness, and change implementation and evaluation. So there are a number of leadership styles, but for our research, we are focusing on transformational leadership and strategic leadership. So transformational management entails empowering and inspiring individuals to go beyond their own interests and work towards a common goal. So the leader sets an enticing goal, lead by example, and encourage workers to participate in the change project. However, strategic leadership refers to the ability of the leader to effectively formulate and execute strategies that drive an organization towards its goals and objectives. Communication. Effective communication is very important in the change process. Leaders must make sure that there's effective communication with all important parties. So that is employees, stakeholders, partners, and even their customers. And they must use all channels available to them to achieve this. And this is essential to minimize misunderstanding of the change process, to build trust, gain credibility, and achieve results. Employee engagement. This is instilling a feeling of possession, dedication, and enthusiasm in employees. Once employees feel they are involved in the change process, they are more inclined to accept the change, adjust themselves to their new job, and participate in transformative initiatives. Managing resistance to change. So leaders can employ these tactics when managing resistance. One, outreach and interaction, engagement and participation, encouragement and assistance, discussion and acceptance, and exploitation and cohesion when it is necessary. Organizational culture readiness. So the organization must be ready, must have a culture of readiness for change. They must be ready in terms of finances or capital for the change. They must be ready in terms of infrastructure, and they must also be ready in terms of the employees. The employees must have a positive attitude and behavior and respond well to the change. And if employees are ready, organization is ready, then they can have a successful change process. Next slide. Other strategies include putting people first, working with a change management model, empowering employees and stakeholders through effective communication, activating strategic leadership roles, making change compelling and exciting, and not ignoring resistance to change. From our findings, it showed that leadership in the organization plays an important role in monitoring the implementation process to guarantee that change is achieved. So most challenges faced by the leaders we interviewed were resistance, inadequate resources or assets, lack of communication, insufficient involvement from stakeholders. From our respondents, it was evident that strategic leadership and effective communication are essential qualities a leader needs to successfully implement change. So strategic leadership emerged as a critical factor in driving successful change initiatives, highlighting the importance of vision, communication, and adaptability. For effective change management, good communication skills, management support and commitment, defining compelling change goals, and leading by examples are key. And then transparency, inclusivity, and adaptability are also required. Next slide. Hello. So we are recommending that leaders cultivate strategic and transformational leadership qualities, prioritize open and transparent communication, empower employees to become active participants in the change process, and encourage ongoing learning and adaptation. We are also mindful of our limitation of the study, which includes the small sample size and the potential bias of qualitative research. And further studies must be done to validate our findings and provide more understanding on organizational change dynamics. Thank you very much. This is the end of our slides.